Pieter Cleppe, who is the editor-in-chief over at Brussels Report. Good to have you on the show. We'll get to the European reaction in just a bit, but I want to first talk to you about the Foreign Minister, Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif's tweet. I mean, it's interesting. He's really trying to put the pressure on the U.S. administration. Sort of, if you look at the original tweet, the red, white, and blue colors in the tweet, stating there are only two options here.
Well, definitely Iran is upping the ante, is trying to pressure the Biden administration, but I'm not sure if that is going to work. I mean, it's clear that Biden ideally wants to go back to the nuclear deal, and would be prepared ultimately to also then lift Iranian sanctions, not all the sanctions, but at least some of the sanctions. But in any case, Biden does not want to be pressured by Iran into doing that. So at the moment, we have a bit of a chicken and egg situation whereby Iran says, okay, fine, we can go back, but first you lift the sanctions. Whereas the United States definitely first wants Iran to comply, and only then it will think to maybe lift the sanctions. And the actions of Iran to enrich up to 60%, I mean, I think are quite grave, because you need about 90%, according to experts, in order to fabricate a nuclear bomb.
Pieter, tell me this. I mean, how did we get here? I mean, just last week there seemed to be some hope of reviving the deal. I mean, can an attack, which Iranians firmly believe that Israel carried out, is that enough to sort of derail the progress, the positive momentum that we've been seeing at least for the past week or so?
Well, that's one element that is indeed, you could say, derailing the talks. However, there are other issues as well. The EU has been imposing sanctions, targeted sanctions on top Iranian regime officials that are seen to be involved with the killing of 1,500 protesters against the Iranian regime back in November 2019. So this actually also is something that the EU says should in theory have nothing to do with the nuclear talks, but of course Iran sees it differently. I mean, where do we go from now? I think indeed the more of this distractions, you could say, we will see, the harder it will be to return to the nuclear deal. Also, let's keep in mind that Israel, rightly or wrongly, did not see the Iran nuclear deal as a guarantee against Iran developing a nuclear bomb. In Israel's mind, that deal actually enabled Iran to continue work behind the scenes to the point that Iran would reach the ability to develop a nuclear time so quickly that Israel would no longer be able to respond, which was the main reason why Israel was always quite hostile against the deal. So with all that in mind, I think the only answer is that you probably have to link all the issues together, one, and two, you also have to improve the deal of 2015. You not just take it up again, but really take on board some of the concerns that also Israel had, that I think were, at least to a certain degree, justified, and should not only be a concern for Israel, but for the whole Middle East and for Europe.
Okay, in your words, if we were to link up all the issues, how does Brussels play its hand right now moving forward?
Well, the EU is definitely trying to be sort of the honest broker, and is sort of chairing the talks, you could say, with Iran and the United States, not even being in the same building in Vienna. Now, of course, when push comes to shove, ultimately the EU will side with the United States. We've seen that in the past, the EU had decided to have some kind of a special purpose vehicle, an arrangement to enable European companies to trade with Iran, and ignore whatever the Trump administration then was deciding on Iran. But that has completely failed, because, of course, these big companies will not trade with Iran against the wishes of the United States. So whatever happens, at the end of the day, the EU will side and has to side with the US. But given that reality, it is still trying to be, as much as possible, let's say, the conciliatory partner here.
Pieter, we'll have to leave it there. Pieter Cleppe, thanks for joining us here on TRT World. I do appreciate your analysis.